Welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast, where we talk about struggles and celebrations that leaders and entrepreneurs experience on their journey to success. I'm your host, Christina, and I'm passionate about helping you achieve massive amounts of success at work and at home. We'll talk about all things people and organizational wellness, share relatable stories, and feature insightful guests because quality people and processes are at the heart of every success story. Ready to learn, grow, and have fun? Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast. I'm your host, Christina Schmidt. Today, we're going to talk about something that's been on my mind for quite a bit, and I want to dig into it deeper and give you some practical ways to look at some of the things you're working on each day. So the topic is intent. So I'll tell you a story about what got me thinking about it and what kind of keeps coming up in my mind. But then I'm going to take it into three different areas of where our intentions or our intent behind what we're doing becomes very critical and how we can look at it and maybe shift our perspective a bit to make sure we're focused on the intention, not necessarily on all the things around the intent. So the story to kind of give you some background, I used to be part of a gym. It was a kickboxing gym for women, and it was great. Loved it. We would go for a 6 a.m. class, and we'd be in there kickboxing, punching our bags. You could take a lot of frustration out on a punching bag and kicking it and everything else in the morning. So it was a great way to start your day. And then I'd swing through, get my coffee, and it was great. So really loved doing it. Decided not to do it because it's easier for me to work out at home. But sometimes I would look around at some of the other women in there, and I was serious. I had my game face on. I was like punch, like I was going after that bag because clearly I had a lot of pent up frustration that needed to get out on that bag. But I also felt tough and strong. But I look at these other women, some of them, not all of them, and I'm like, gosh, they're just kind of like barely hitting it. And I'm like, gosh, why? Like, why are they not really getting after this thing? And I started thinking about, okay, well, I'm paying money to come here. Yeah, sometimes it really sucked. Like sometimes I'd be dripping sweat because, we weren't just punching bags. We were also doing conditioning stuff in between. So you're doing like burpees, you're doing squats, you're doing jump squats. And so, yeah, it was hard. But these women were paying these monthly unlimited memberships. They were getting up early, driving in, doing their thing. And they were barely breaking a sweat while doing it. And I was like, my goodness, like my intention for coming is, to punch the bag, to get healthy, to like feel like I'm stronger and to get my body moving. Maybe theirs isn't that, but if it is, they should rethink because just because you show up to the 6 a.m. class every day doesn't mean you're going to get the result that you have. So, their intent could have been the social aspect, which everybody was chatting away and having a great time. So they were getting that if that was their intention. But I know my intention was to get a workout in. So if I was always ever tempted to cheat my way through or to, not try as hard on a specific round of punching, then, I would say, hey, you're here for a reason. You're paying people to do this for a reason. So get your butt in gear and start punching this thing. And I even have to remind myself of that sometimes now at my home workout. It's like when I'm like, oh, I think I'll just, sometimes we get an easier option when I'm doing the workout. And it's like, maybe I'll just do the easy option today because I'm just not feeling it. I'm like, you can do the hard option because your intention, the reason you're up this early doing this is to get in shape, feel good, and feel strong. So keeping that in the back of my mind is important. So similarly, when we look at other aspects of our lives, that intention becomes so critical to keep in the forefront of our mind, not hanging out somewhere in the back, because we lose so much as leaders, as parents, as human beings when we forget the intent. So I'm going to go through three major areas where it comes into play, we could say. I'm going to go from like the one that I'm still working on all the way to one where I've really had to make an effort and I really feel like the impact could be huge. So kind of like, count down to the top, to the number one reason, basically. But the first one that I want to think about is how we approach our work. So one of the biggest transitions I've had to make from going from, working corporate life, like going to work, not really punching a clock per se, but going to work, right? Going to an office and working for someone else versus being a business owner, entrepreneur, however you want to call it. But this working from home, running my own thing. So like there's no one there checking in on me. So that accountability thing becomes really important. But this mind shift and perspective shift that admittedly I still have to actually fully make is that I don't just go to work anymore. And having an actual intention when I sit down to work, because it might be in little sporadic times. It might be I have a half an hour before the kids get up and I'm going to spend 30 minutes doing this and being very intentional with that can drive your focus better, can help you be more efficient in your work, and can help you have that better balance in your life. So even if you're working in a corporate lifestyle, blocking off those times saying, "Hey, I've got, the 30 minutes before the morning meeting. I've got an hour after that where I've got to really focus and get this thing done." Having that laser intense focus all the time, not just when it's, due date time, which I'm real good at making the due date time. I can do it really well when I have the due date, but setting that level of intention no matter when you're working. So it's like when I'm working, I'm working. You can even flip it to when I'm with my kids, I'm with my kids. I had a podcast, the It's All About Time podcast, or It's Not About Time Management podcast. So it's one of the very early ones. And I had a wonderful guest on there. And she talked about spending an intense 10 minutes playing with your kids and how fruitful that can be because kids don't have a great concept of time. What they remember is that connection. And so when you can take that time and spend that really intense playtime where your phone is somewhere else, not around you, the TV's not on, you're not being distracted by that, you're not saying, gotta go grab the dinner thing, but just all you're doing is playing. That can go so far with a kid and with building the relationship. And even taking it to with our teams. If you're in a coaching session, okay, coaching sessions don't have to be an hour long. Make them 20 to 30 minutes long and have that really focused time and saying, this is your time. Like, how good does that feel when you know you have someone's undivided attention no matter what happens, except maybe the building burning down, right? But that can be so fruitful in so many ways. So, having that intention around our time and how we're spending it can be a huge impact. So, next time, if you're thinking of working, if you think of working like I do, take that little perspective shift and say, no, I'm going to spend working time right now and it's going to be this. And then I'm going to do this next sort of working time on that. It can be very effective. The second thing, it has to do with our attitudes and kind of how we approach things. So the biggest thing, I used to do a sales training course. And sometimes even when I would talk about some of the things, it would be like, oh, that feels like it could feel slimy. But the difference here is, so like I'm going to give an example. So in sales training, you learn a lot, and in life training, relationship training, you learn a lot around the principles of reciprocity. So do something kind, say something kind, and people will feel obligated to do something kind or say something kind to you. It is just our natural human nature. The problem is when our intentions are not on the up and up, you could say, when our intention is not to do the best for that person, that's when it becomes slimy. So, to take my business, for example, I want people to lead well because that will give them the freedom to live their lives. That will allow their team culture to be well developed so that their teams have a positive place to come to work and enjoy their work and are more effective at their work. So I want people to lead well because it is better for the organization. So I want people to take leadership training. However, I don't just want just anyone to take leadership training. Many conversations I will have with potential clients are, they want to give me their underperformer leader. And I said, we can do that. We can. However, you're going to get a bigger bang for your buck on the top for performer training, or at least pairing them. Because if you have somebody underperforming, there's always a reason behind, right? No one comes and says, I want to do a bad job. But that underperformer may not get the benefit and may see the training as a punishment instead of a reward and a way to enhance them. If you have a good conversation, someone's underperforming, there's a specific skill set that they need to develop. Fantastic. That intention makes sense. But if you're just trying to say they need to fix the problem, right, then that's not the right thing. So anyway, back to what I'm talking about. I have a whole podcast on that. If you have more interest in that, go check out the Who Am I Training on What podcast. But the whole intention of our attitude behind it is that if my intention was just to make money, then I would say, yep, put your people in. Yep, bring more people in. Let's put everybody through training because everybody needs training. There is some level to that I believe, but I want to train the right people because I don't want you to spend money needlessly. I want people to get the benefit for it. So there is a timing element to training. So let's do it when it makes sense for the people that it makes sense for. So there is a difference between, like, if I give someone a compliment because I'm trying to engage them in conversation, it's not because I'm trying to make money. It's because I am trying to get them to have a more fruitful, beneficial business, team culture, and overall life. So my intentions are good. So if that makes sense, like when we do things for the wrong reasons, that can be where it's not good. But when we do them for the right reason, when we keep that intent in the front of our minds, it's going to be easier because so many of us, including myself, have a hard time selling. It's uncomfortable. It makes you feel slimy because you're worried. You don't want to get lumped in with the used car salesman mentality. I'm not saying that used car salesmen are all like that. I'm just saying that there is a mentality that we all, when you say used car salesman, everyone pictures the plaid loud jacket that's going, hey, I'll get you the best thing. So we don't want to get lumped into that, but we have to sell. That is our jobs. Whether you're a leader or a salesperson, you are selling all the time. You're selling ideas, you're selling policies, you're selling meeting expectations, you are selling your vision. So you're always selling. And if you feel slimy doing it, you're not going to do it as well, or you're going to think that people, aren't going to see, they will see through you if you're not intentional. So that's the other half of it. If you're legit, if your intentions are not actually good, like why you're chasing somebody down, because maybe you are just trying to sell something, people will see through it. Or if you're just sitting down and doing those coaching sessions because somebody told you you had to, and you're really not doing anything, and all you're doing is just like jibber jabbering at them, you're not going to get the results that you expected to. So you're going to say, oh gosh, I sat and I did that with everybody on my team and nobody did anything differently. Everyone just sat there and listened to me and I did all the talking all the time and they just didn't get me any better results. And it's like, well, A, that's probably that's not how they should go. Your team members should be doing all the talking. But also B, your intention wasn't there. You weren't saying, hey, I want to build this relationship so that we have better trust, we have better empathy, we overall have a great relationship so that we can trust one another to be vulnerable, to make a mistake because they were taking a risk that we agreed upon. And I want to be able to see you do your best, allow you to fly high, that sort of thing. So it's important that when we're doing these things that might feel uncomfortable at first, like practicing a new leadership habit, giving feedback, having coaching sessions, like all of these things are new habits and they're hard and they're uncomfortable. But when we keep the intention in our mind, we know that we're going to get a better result and we will get a better result. So if you're struggling with something like that and you're saying, I don't actually think I've got the right intent behind this, and maybe I am just doing it because somebody told me to, then like rethink what you're doing. Maybe it's not the time for you to start that, or change your thoughts. We talk a lot about this, our thoughts drive our feelings drive our behaviors, and our behaviors will dictate our results and then reinforce our thoughts. So if we continue to reinforce the bad thoughts, we're going to continue to get the bad results. But if you can change your thoughts. So take a second, shift that thought and say, I'm not doing the coaching session or the feedback session or the annual review. I'm not doing it to tick the box. I legit want to build my relationship and help my team member grow. I do. Just keep saying it to yourself. You will believe it. You will get there and you'll start to act differently. So there are ways to change that perspective, and it's affirmations, not to sound like Stuart Smalley. So if anybody gets that reference, leave me a comment. Um, but that is the second way. So the first one was, with our time, being very intentional with our time. Second one is with our attitudes, being intentional with why we are doing certain actions. And that leads into that authenticity portion, right? We need to be authentic leaders, authentic people, and that will help us be more successful as well. Now, the third one, this is the one that really gets me. And I think that if you can work this into your businesses and your lives, that you will see huge fruits for it. So the third one is with our goals. So going back to the working out goal, like my goal back then, or still is, my goal is to be healthier, de-stress by moving my body, and to feel strong. Like I feel so strong when I'm done working out because I slug as heavy a weight as I can. I do the hard things. And so I feel very accomplished. So that is my goal. So if I'm half, wetting it, and if I'm not putting my full effort into it, my intention behind that goal is not being met, and therefore I'm never going to meet the goal. Now, looking at it the other way, when someone says, I want to work out 5 days a week, the important thing there is also to remember the intention. Because is it really to work out 5 days a week? Or is it to feel the benefits of the working out? And maybe they can actually gain those benefits in 3 times a week, or 5 times a week for 20 minutes, or 2 20-minute sessions, or 2 10-minute sessions. Like maybe they can reap those same benefits there. So it is important. Yes, we need to make goals measurable. So that's why our 5 days a week makes sense. But we also have to do the gut check. Did we meet the intention? Am I showing up to that 6 a.m. class every single day, but I'm gaining weight and feeling flabbier and having less energy? Like, is that the result I'm getting? Then my intention behind my goal has not been met. And therefore, either I need to change the goal or I need to look at how I'm behaving within it, within that time that I'm there. So now let's think about like corporate. Let's think about the corporate policies or corporate things. So let's take a sales team. I keep referring to salespeople this time, but there is so much intention that's obvious around sales. So I was on a sales team and we had a CRM. So anybody who's been in sales, everybody's got the CRM. I loved it. I know not everybody does, but I could see why in a large corporate environment you would not like it, because there is a lot of goals that get put into place that the intent gets completely lost, right? Okay, so with the CRM, there's a great measurement of, like, you can pull up stats on goals opened and goals closed. So each month, to see that progress is being made, you can say, oh, goal open, goal closed, and great, fantastic people are closing out goals and we're moving things forward. Fantastic. But what's really happening behind the scenes in order to make the goal look good or the stats look good is that they're actually just opening up things and then closing them and then reopening them the next month. And so you're not actually moving anything forward and things are just sitting around. And so the intention behind the goal, which was to make sure projects are moving forward and we are closing them in a timely fashion, the whole intention behind that goal goes out the window because people are just trying to meet the metric. So there's a lot that I talk through in our Cornerstone program around lagging and leading metrics and making sure that they're meeting the intent. And that's such an important part and such a thing that will go a long way when you're setting goals with your team or even setting goals for yourself or trying to put policies in place, because it's huge. the impact when people are actually working on the intention. And so, another thing with that, and making sure we stay intention focused, is the conversations you can have around goals. So, when you set a goal, and maybe your team member sets a goal, and they are saying something like, I want to work out X number of days of, sorry, excuse me, X number of days a week. And it's a fantastic goal because it's very measurable, and we know that we can see that you did it or you didn't do it. It's very simple. But again, losing that intention, we may or may not, like, we may be meeting the goal but not getting the result, as I talked about before. But the conversations you can have around that are fantastic, because you can start to say, okay, it's great, you're meeting it. What was your intention? Why did you what's your motivation behind meeting this goal? And you can start to have the conversation that, what, it was to feel healthier, but I feel less healthy. And then so now you can make the adjustment. And you can even do this in like work metrics too. Like, it doesn't just have to be working out. It's just a simple one that most of us can relate to. But like work metrics, when you are struggling with a project, or maybe you have a project that you're launching something, and you get so like focused on the results in one area, and you're saying, oh my gosh, we're overspent in this area. But it's because you're redesigning something, and so you're saving here but you're overspending here. And if your intention of the overall project doesn't stay in the forefront of your mind, like keeping the overall budget in line, then you're going to like beat these people up for actually solving a problem. And you're going to create this can't think of the word, but this reaction of, basically, people won't try. People won't say, hey, I could spend a little more money here to save a lot of money over here, because I'm just going to get yelled at for going over my budget. So you're going to lose innovation. You're going to lose people's, actual money saving, time saving, productivity saving, like all of that stuff, because you're not looking at the overall project. So it's important that we open these conversations up and we keep a full view of to what is the intention. But I'm going to add a caveat to that. Make sure you communicate it. I have been in situations where I've seen that, so somebody, like the leader, is making a decision. They're saying, okay, we are going to spend an extra hour on this setup because we're going to save 3 hours of runtime. So it's worth that time. But if not everybody realizes what's happening and we're not communicating that well, then what we see is people saying, why are these idiots making these decisions? Because they're making us take longer on this setup time. And, it doesn't make sense. We're wasting time. We're honing in all this stuff. So anyway, they're not going to do the work the way it's intended. They're not going to understand it. They're going to lose trust, and they're going to get frustrated. So communicating that intention and keeping that intention in the front of everyone's mind, whether it's a policy or a procedure that you're throwing out, or a rolling out, or a goal that you're setting and you're doing it in one-on-one, whenever we have an opportunity, keeping that intent in the forefront of what we're doing will help everyone involved. It's going to help you be more successful. It's going to help improve trust. It's going to help improve innovation and make you overall more successful. So if you would like to dig a little bit deeper into some of these sorts of concepts, like how to keep an intent alive through goal setting and through habits, I have two things coming up. So the first is another cohort of our Cornerstone program. So this is the Catholic Leader Program. So this is where we encompass everything that it is about you. So keeping in mind, like identifying who you are, understanding who you are through Working Genius and various other assessments, charisms, all of these things, as well as bringing your vocation in, and basically building this strong foundation to become a very successful leader. So if that is interesting to you, I've got that starting September 17th. So I will put the link in the show notes if you want to go check out what is involved in that and what sort of benefits you can get. The second thing is at the end of October, we have another cohort of Thrive. So Thrive is our kind of flagship leadership program. So this is a 6-month program where leaders are really going to hone in their skills, how to create a safe workplace, how to have these conversations where you are having a conversation around intent, and you're learning how to give feedback, but you're doing it in a way that is actually going to bring the person up and not tear them down. So if you're interested in that, we've got that coming up as well at the end of October. So super excited. I would love to see everyone involved in spreading this great leadership concept and just building strong cultures, because when we have a great culture to go to at work, we are better when we come home. We are better parents, we are better friends, we are better mothers, daughters, siblings, cousins, whatever you want to say. We are better overall because we are being fulfilled at work. And it is the best way to become a saint. So keeping your work in the forefront and keeping your work holy and keeping it all together and spreading that light of God, that is the best way to become a saint, best way to create a happy leader, to create success in your organization. So if you have interest in either of those programs, I put links below, or you can reach out to me and ask some questions at christinaschmidt.ca, or just hop onto my website and you can reach out that way as well. As always, share the show with a friend, have them subscribe, leave a review, and that is how we can best share this message with more and more people. So until the next episode, I'll see you next time on the Business Building Blocks podcast. Thank you for listening to the Business Building Blocks podcast, where we talk about all things people and organizational wellness, because quality people and processes are at the heart of every successful business. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to hit the subscribe button so you know when new episodes are released. You can also follow me on Instagram at christinaschmidt.ca, where I share real-life tips to help in your leadership and life journey. To get one-on-one and team support with your leadership development, book a discovery call on my website at christinaschmidt.ca. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.